Yeah, we're less than 2 weeks since the whole finale furore, aren't we? The closing of the Shooty Gatwa era, that last era of Doctor Who, maybe Doctor Who permanently. It positively shattered the time continuum and the Doctor Who fandom. Where on earth do you start with all of that? You know, I was pretty shocked watching that. A bit of a mess. Somebody who was even more shocked was my mate Adam here, Atum Mirabilis from over on X. He's an illustrator, artist, designer, and storyteller, lifelong Doctor Who fan as well. But you had a very particular reaction, didn't you, to what was playing out on screen over the last sort of 2 weeks, based around something that struck you as quite familiar, didn't you?
Yes, absolutely. I was a little bit shocked, really, when I saw it. So at the end of the finale, of course, they've got the gateway open where they're going to bring Omega through. And, it started to look a little familiar to me. And I'm like, well, what is that? And then when I saw it on screen, I said, no, they couldn't have used that because that's my work. That's clearly my work. I mean,
so as you say, this is all part of the big gambit, wasn't it? For the 2 parts, the very overblown 2-part season finale that Russell T Davies loves to do all this sort of blockbuster stuff. 9 times out of 10, in fact, 9.5 times out of 10, he doesn't pull it off. He didn't pull it off this time either, did he? But there was lots of noise, lots of stomping around, lots of things blowing up, and lots of spectacle. But it was these little details, wasn't it? This being what they're now terming officially as the seal of Omega. It's never been referred to that on screen before, has it, to the best of my knowledge, and never been seen in this form, looking quite so sharp, defined, and embedded into the lore of the show, I suppose. Now, a couple of weeks ago on the live stream on Type 40 Live, I mentioned this about how it was kind of cool that the people making the show were actually connecting with not just the things that are done in expanded media, so the novels or Big Finish or comic strips, and sort of adding a sort of sprinkling of all of that, but we're actually looking to what the fan base had done, had added, and created. Now, I had an inkling that this had its origins in the fandom, but for some reason I hadn't realized it was literally you, even though we'd spoken before, that had joined these particular dots and created these lines in the first place, wasn't it?
Yep, absolutely. So if we took a TARDIS right now, we went back to 2018, right? But when the internet was different, when you had less information and availability to images. So when I designed that particular logo, there was no logo or seal of Omega, not in canon or anywhere, right? So I was like, okay, well, since I'm creating this book called the Time Lord Compendium, I figured I'll go ahead and do a seal of Omega. And I decided to go ahead and pull it from the Arc of Infinity because that was the only time I saw anything that was remotely like the necklace that Rassilon had in the End of Time. So I figured, maybe Time Lords wear big clocks. They're like Flavor Flav. They want to be flash, show off their house. There's no high-res resolution image of that. I mean, and every single one of the striations in there, I had to guess at. So I know that the symbol and the seal that was in the end of season 2's finale had to have been my work because there's no other way that they would have gotten that image because I took liberties when I drew it over the design that's on screen there. That's my work.
So this particular design didn't pre-exist until you created the line work, uploaded it to your own website, incorporated it into an expanded fan work, unauthorized and unofficial. You've not denied that, have you?
And I even posted the date that showed when I uploaded it to my DeviantArt account, which was in 2019. So you take what was available on the internet at that time. That's what I came up with based on what I could make out from the blurred images that I was able to download from various websites. I know that for a fact that what you're looking at on screen is mostly guesswork on my part. My refined design of the Seal of Omega on screen in Doctor Who and yet no credit, no request to use it, and they even modified it slightly. As you can tell, just below the circle on the right, there's a bulge on mine. They took that out and blacked it out. So they
Yeah.
tried to do a
Oh,
little
yeah.
bit of modification, but for the most part, that's exactly what I drew.
Because they'll probably be looking to exploit this, won't they, on t-shirts, coasters, mugs, all that kind of thing. And it wasn't any kind of sort of registered trademark before, because the seal of Rassilon, the corresponding seal that, again, that you look to and that we all associate with Doctor Who, stretching back now, God, nearly 50 years, isn't it? That's a registered trademark, isn't it? And they've incorporated that in any one of a number of things. It's been exploited commercially over and over again. So it is quite likely that they'll do the same with this, isn't it? I would.
Yeah, yeah. And it's unfortunate too because they wouldn't have had the design that they used, which is literally my design, just slightly modified. A couple of things were changed, but not much. Not much. For the most part, the central core of the design, even the little the piece in the top corner there, the little curl that's up at the top
Yeah.
right left-hand corner, that was all me guesswork from the blurred images that I could see at the time. So
Because even when you go through Arc of Infinity and get up some pretty good screen grabs, I mean, you could probably get them slightly better now because it's come out on Blu-ray, hasn't it?
yeah,
But at the time, that was the best. That was the best anybody could do, really, to look at the imagery that we got in standard definition
yeah.
and piece together what we could.
And it wasn't even a seal like this. It was a stamped piece of metal that had striations through it. And they had cut out bits and stuff and then created, for the costume, for the prop. So you could tell that there wasn't any deep lines or anything drawn into it. It was just all striations somebody had carved into it. So there was a lot more lines that were actually carved into the original prop that I left out when I cleaned it up for the design. And part of me is proud to see it on screen, but another part of me is like, well,
Of course.
nobody asked me first. There is a Creative Commons license that's built into DeviantArt, and I believe that seal was under that Creative Commons license, so you couldn't use it without permission. Look at that.
It occupies exactly the same space, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and about the same width.
They'd have come to you and asked you, "Can we use this?" I would imagine you'd have been pretty thrilled, wouldn't you? You wouldn't have
Oh yeah.
made any kind of outrageous demands of them, of the art department, of BBC Studios, or Bad Wolf.
No, I probably would have just asked, to make sure that I got credit for it. That was it. Some kind of credit. I mean, I'm happy to contribute to the lore of Doctor Who, but I mean, my goodness, I mean that's just blatant.
Yeah.
I can't believe my work ended up on screen. But prior to that, there was no design that looked anywhere near like that.
Have you
No.
considered reaching out to anybody at Bad Wolf and asking maybe for a credit on any repeats or on the commercial releases? Reaching out to them in some way, even an email, or even just on social media over on X. Have you tagged them or anything like that? Would you consider
Well,
doing
I've
that?
had so when it comes to artists, right? The community of artists is it's quite vast, but in some ways it's quite small. A lot of artists get to know other artists and they talk a lot. My fear when I posted that to X, and I even said that in my X post, was that I'm not so worried about necessarily me and my reaction as opposed to the other artists who see this and they think to themselves, well, my God, what other kind of work could I do that could be pilfered by the BBC without my permission?
I
As this
see.
becomes more known, they are already reaching out to me asking me if I should talk to this attorney or to that attorney. What do you want to do? And at this point in time, I'm still just reeling from the fact that I had a piece of my artwork end up on screen. That's the initial shock right there. The secondary is not asking me or giving me any credit. So there's that aspect too. But for right now, I'm still just kind of in shock over the whole thing.
The character of Omega hasn't appeared on screen, of course, in 42 years in any way, shape, or form. has he? Except for one very brief sort of flashback in that god awful story, The Timeless Children, where one of these three figures could be claimed to be Omega, judging by the voiceover.
We were led to believe that it was the bloke on the left, the only white male that's there.
That's what
vision.
that's how I taken it, that it was that guy. He's not wearing that anywhere on that outfit, but the other two characters are wearing the Seal of Rassilon, and I think they're both wearing the Seal of Rassilon.
Yes. Yep.
It's just not there. Is it? Okay, so this episode is also 5 years old. But the point, I think the point remains, doesn't it, that clearly there's no pre-existing iconography attached to this character in their own history, in their props costume store, without your intervention, your artworking.
Correct. Yeah. Because the prop that was on the Omega version 2, as we call them, from the Arc of Affinity, it was just part of the costume. It was never stated that that was expressly the seal of Omega. The invention of the official seal came from me working my artwork back in 2019 based on those old images that I could get from the web. And that was hours and hours of reference material going back and forth in my art program to get what you finally see. And then yet to see it in Doctor Who was fantastic, but at the same time, no credit, no acknowledgement. And in the history of the show, my name, if you're going to use it, it should at least be there, right?
I agree with you. I mean, looking at the two images side by side here, and speaking as somebody who's a designer as well, I'm a designer, illustrator, just the same as you are. Lots of artworking, lots of things that have gone on merchandise that's been licensed and attached to big brands. You think, well, to somebody who doesn't come from this field, they'd say, well, it's not the same because there are lines removed. They probably removed those lines and refined it in the way that they did, so it could be slightly more easily replicated in any kind of commercial usage, I would say, and just to be that bit bolder on screen, given that metallic look. I don't think it alters the fact at all that this is very evidently derived from your work.
I've taken something that was an official image, translated it, which effectively modified it into what they used as a basis for the new image, and the laws behind that and how that all works as far as trademarks, what kind of rights I have to the art. These are all things that I'm just now starting to get more aware of, like I said, because of the furor of other artists who are reaching out to me, who are worried about their Doctor Who fan work or any other studio
being fair game, simply by nature of the fact that it isn't official, and therefore those who hold those official rights can basically claim it if they feel so inclined, or just take it and think that A, no one's going to notice, or B, nobody's going to care.
Right. And so where does that leave the artist? All the work that's been put in, all the hours and time promoting it.
As a creative myself, I am so sick of the work of creatives being taken, innovations being taken, ideas and the hard work and sometimes financial outlay of creative people being taken by people who aren't creatives and passing it off as their own. It happens everywhere, every arena, every form of publishing, including here in the world of content creation. And this is really something that we should be flagging up at every available opportunity. So good for you for standing up for your work. It's a terrific design. It's a sensitive refinement of a classic bit of nonsense, some people may say, but you've made it seem like it's part of the legend, like it belongs, which is clearly why they nicked it in the first place.
There was a bloke that I lent the design to for only one purpose. It was very limited, for him to create what looks like they were coasters right? He had a whole set of coasters. He was doing 3D printing. 3D printing was just becoming a thing then, right? So he had his own 3D printer. He would dye them the same color gold that you see on the symbol right there. I mean, the same color gold. It's crazy.
Did he have an official license with the BBC, or was it just a fan
Yeah.
making something on Etsy?
Fan making it, wanted to know if he could use my seal of Omega. Told him very limited. He could do a limited run. He did a limited run. And he was done. The changes that he made based on my work exactly match what you see on screen there. So I wonder if he's involved.
In my view, the art, all the various imagery, the costumes, the sets, and all of those sort of little details in Doctor Who over the last 2 or 3 years, that is one area in which the series has expanded and excelled. Therefore, it's even more surprising to me to find that they would do this in the first place in such an impolite way.
Well, one wonders too, because I've been such a vocal critic of the show on Twitter. It's been, there's no secret that I'm not a fan of the last 8 years of Doctor Who.
Not many people are, mate. Not many people are.
Makes you wonder. It's given the way that he's attacked podcasters and his critics in the show, RTD, and I'm assuming the crew at Bad Wolf is 100% behind it. So no dissent. He said nobody's told him no, or maybe nobody has the courage to tell him no. But for them to just take it and to think, well, we can just do with it what we want, and damn the artist.
Yeah, there's not going to be any consequences to them, is there? As regards your fan projects, you've incorporated this into some very inventive and imaginative designs, haven't you? You've gone back and looked at Omega again, imagined him in alternative scenarios, in other pasts or parallel sort of futures. You've had a lot of fun with all of this iconography, very creative stuff. There'll be links in the description of the video to look at what you've managed to do with it, how you've used it as fuel to expand Doctor Who and the Time Lords, and this corner to the lore that you clearly love so much. You've done that. Ultimately, Omega didn't even appear in the end.
No. Oh, well, here's in the lead up to it. I was excited because I was like, okay, let's see what RTD is going to come up with for Omega. But then when the door opens and this giant, decrepit husk comes wandering out,
slams down on the floor.
I was like, what the heck is that? That's not Omega. And then they changed the lore. And at the same time, the finale changes the lore of Longbarrow, right? Because the Time Lords were made sterile because of the Timeless Child incident, which was never the lore. The original lore had the Pythia and her psychic abilities, and she was the one, the Pythia curse, but it was actually her psychic power, and that she is the one that created that whole sterilization. So Russell T Davies took that and he stole from Longbarrow, and then he rewrote it for the finale there based on the Timeless Child.
Repurposed it, made it so that anybody who would read that book now, that's a 30-year-old book, but would come across that again and maybe would wish to jump in with all those books. Now they have to discount that one because it doesn't line up with what he established either, as well as your artwork being used for something that was arguably less imaginative and less affectionate than your work, which adds so much. And everything that was done on screen in both Wishworld and the Reality War drains an enormous amount away from the legacy of the fabulous creation of Omega by Bob Baker and Dave Martin. So you're not quite sure where you're going to go from here.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe I would start with the BBC first. I don't necessarily know if I'd want to deal with Bad Wolf. I mean, the attitude that they have there does not lend to being one that, if you do not share the same values or particular ideology, you wouldn't be welcomed.
You don't feel they're approachable.
No.
From someone such as yourself, somebody out in the fan base, a consumer of their material.
And a contributor now.
So I suppose my last question has to be, if they announce that Titan or Forbidden Planet are doing one of their deals where for a limited time only, there is a seal of Omega t-shirts up on the store. You can place your order, and it does feature basically your artwork. Will you pull the trigger? Will you be ordering one?
I don't know necessarily about ordering one, but I would want to see what kind of compensation I should be getting off of the sales of those. I mean, wouldn't you?
We want to know what you think, though. Let us know in the comments section. Have you come across Adam's work before? Did you recognize it instantly? I did. I know lots of other people did, and were wondering about this. What did you think of the job that they made on Omega in that? The hatchet job on that fabulous creation at the hands of Russell T Davies. Let them know again, Adam. What's the title of your works, and where can they find them?
I'm under the title of Time Lord Rassilon on DeviantArt. If you Google that, it'll bring up my DeviantArt page. You can go to my gallery. A lot of my works are a couple of things I'm working on right now is the TARDIS Master Schematics and General Plans Index. I know it's a large title, but it really is like Mr. Scott's Guide to a Type 40 TARDIS. Mark 1, not a Mark 3, but I would have supplements coming out for the Mark 3 upgrade. The Time Lord Compendium, which is definitely something that I think a lot of people will identify with, especially if you are a fan of classic Star Trek fleet, the Starfleet manual, the classic Star Trek from TOS. Book. I designed this book where this seal came from based on that book. I always thought that was great fun. But Doctor Who never had anything like that. So I set about creating a whole book based on that. All set in universes if you were reading this as a cadet or a new student at the Time Lord Academy. So that was the whole premise of that book. And that's where that seal came from, because we were identifying different seals of the Time Lords. Gallifrey, the Age of Wonder is probably my newest work. And if you've been on X and followed me and you see a lot of the animated GIFs that I've put out recently from the digital artwork that I've painted, I think you'll find that great fun.
That's just the tip of the iceberg. If you want to catch up with all of Adam's work there'll be links in the description to the video. Got any questions for Adam, not just about his work, but about this whole business with the seal of Omega, you can put those in the comments as well. And we'll see you on the next one.